Is Islamophobia and people being xenophobic. Is that running wild?
Will maniacs will Islam, they want to bomb people up and suicide bombing and things of that nature. And that just comes from people who don't understand something.
It started on our screens. For decades, Hollywood and the global media have curated an image of Islam, a silhouette of the enemy that ignored the humanity of Muhammad, the shared roots with Jesus, and the vibrant reality of millions. Whether it's the treatment of Muslims in China, the tensions in France, or the far-right rallies in the UK, the question remains, is the world reacting to the people or to the caricature we've been sold? Today, we strip away the headlines and the Hollywood tropes.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Cliff of the Underground Railroad television show and podcast. And today, Islamophobia is just running wild. It's running wild. And you can call in if you want to at 312-884-9757. But Islamophobia is running wild. Like the Hawks just said, Hawkamania is running wild. Islamophobia is running wild. And I'm honored to be here with my friend and colleague in Islam to talk about Islam and Christianity. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay. And you know what? I thank you for accepting the invitation to come on. And
it's a pleasure.
Alhamdulillah. Brief introduction of who you are.
Okay. My name is Minister Ben Willis. I do a show called Minister Ben Willis BLAAST OFF podcast on YouTube. And I've known Brother Clifford Bradley for a long time. We're very good friends. We're brothers in Islam. And I look forward to this is an honor for me to be on your show.
Praise Allah. Mm-hmm. You know what? It's an honor to have you on my show. Anybody that looks at the Underground Railroad television show podcast, I'm asking you out of humbleness to support his platforms, whatever he does. And those website links will be in the description.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Aki.
Alhamdulillah. Or we're in Chicago in the United States of America. I'd like to ask you, brother, what does the word Islamophobia mean to you? And is it running wild? Like Hulk Hogan used to make a statement. He was a wrestler. Hulkamania is running wild. What you gonna do when a Hulkster comes at you? Is Islamophobia and people being xenophobic? Is that running wild in the world?
I think so. I mean, there are misnomers that are pointed at Islam, that we don't believe in Jesus. Maniacs will Islam, they want to bomb people up and suicide bombing and things of that nature. And that just comes from people who don't understand something. When you don't understand something, you're going to depict something that's negative, just as well as anybody else just walking. Just say, Christianity, for instance. In the United States, people are locked up in prison for rape and murder and things like that. Mm-hmm. Well, the people that are doing it are Christians, and so what we put that stamp on people with Christianity, say they're rapists and murderers and slanderers and robbers and thieves. No, those are individuals that do that. That is not the religion. The religion is not the problem. It's the people that do those particular acts. So yeah, to be afraid and any kind of phobia, it depicts something wrong anyway with it, because the root word of Islamic phobia is Islam. And so, no. In fact, Islam means peace. Mm-hmm. That's what Islam means. It means peace.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about this, there is hypocrisy and they're hypocrites
Sure.
in Christianity and Islam.
Oh, most
I'm
definitely.
asking you that a question because I'm building up for something else. What are some of the hypocrites, the people that perceive themselves to be Muslim but they really are? What are they? What is your perception of that, and what makes them a hypocrite?
Well, I mean, this is not even a perception; it's a reality. That when I go in any ghetto neighborhoods, I have the Eastern brothers in the ghetto stores in the black community. They will have pictures of the Kaaba in the store, and they would say "Assalamu alaikum" to you and everything else, and yet still at the same breath, they'd be selling pork and alcohol in the store. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, forbid those types of things. That's forbidden in Islam. So that right there is hypocrisy at the highest form. Also, they'll leave the store, go to Jumu'ah prayer on Friday, and then they'll come back and have sex with underage girls in the black community and do things like that. If that's not the highest form of hypocrisy, and you never see their daughters and their wives and things like that in in the store. So yeah, there is big hypocrisy in Islam out of some Muslim brothers and sisters.
Okay, and when we talk about his hypocrisy, I'm going to use, I'm going to say a famous priest in Chicago. I'm going to say Father Flagger.
Okay.
He, you know what he talks about civil rights and doing good for people, but I've never heard him come out about the pedophilia that exists in Chicago in the Vatican. But can you tell some of the hypocrisy within the Christian religion?
I talk about Father Flagler. I know that uh, you know I went to Catholic school, so grammar school and high school, and I know that the priests that are there, they transfer from parish to parish. They got to transfer, but he never has.
In
In fact,
Chicago.
yeah, and he fought to stay there in there. Now I know that there's alleged a case about that with him. I think that they I think that they exonerated him. He wasn't found guilty of that. But when we talk about pedophilia in the Catholic faith, yes, there's record numbers of pedophilia in a Catholic religion. Where in fact, those priests, they don't go to prison for molesting and raping little children, little boys. They don't go to prison. They just take them and send them to the Vatican
Yes.
and hide them out there. That is a fact. That's not even me talking. That's a fact that happens. So how do you look at that? Where's your trust in those types of things? So yeah, it's major hypocrisies in all the religions, in Judaism, Christianity, and in Islam.
Not just talking about Father Flagger, but what are some of the other what are some of the clauses that you see in the hypocrisy? We've talked about the hypocrisy in Islam. What other hypocrisies do you see within the Judeo-Christian society? Can you expand on that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, here you go. You can look at the what's called the Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud are scriptures that the rabbis had put together, and I encourage everybody that's out there that are researchers to research the Babylonian Talmud. And in there, it talks about they give a depiction of Jesus, and that say Jesus. They don't believe in Jesus. First off, they say that Jesus will is boiling in hell in his excrement, which means he's boiling in hell in his waste. That his mother Mary is a whore, and that it's okay for them to have sex with children because they are the chosen people. That's what is stated in the Babylonian Talmud, which was put together by Jewish rabbis. So, and that's not me talking. I encourage everybody to do the research because that is another thing that's factual. And I can also give you a little something in reference to the that when we go into the Quran, where it says and Quran is the holy book of the Muslims.
Yes.
It says that Almighty God says that it says that the Jews and the Christians will change the books, that they'll change the Bible, they'll change the Torah, they'll change it with their own hands. And so when it speaks like that in the Quran, it tells you that, and you see that they took parts of the Torah out and made it into the Talmud.
Yes.
And so it says there in the Quran that they will change it, and they did. So look at the Babylonian Talmud that's by the Jewish rabbis, and you can see just grave hypocrisy and slander.
You know, when we talk about this hypocrisy, you know, what folk want to focus in on you. What moral principles did you see within the Islamic religion that made you, I assume that you was a Christian, deviate from those teachings? And why should people examine what you're talking about?
Well, I'm of course, I come from a Christian background. My parents, my grandparents, my family, my cousins are Christian, and I've been a good guy. I believe in God and things of that nature, and I just believe in being a good person. And so, but my first introduction on looking at Muslims was seeing the brothers with the bow ties and the woman with the long dress and everything else, which is called the Nation of Islam, and you know, Muhammad Ali and everything else, and Elijah Muhammad, but never knew really to get in depth into them, but to always look at them as kind of mysterious, so to speak, because they dress different, they talk different. But one thing that really grasped me is that they were so knowledgeable. I'm like, how do these guys know so much? And also another thing, there was a mystery to them in the black community was that you don't mess with them.
No.
You don't mess with them. You mess with any of them, and it's called a black Muslim. You mess with any of them, that it could be a problem. You did not disrespect the women in there because those brothers will come see you. So it was always that kind of looked at it, but I never, you know, the bean pies and the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. Then I remember my father, he joined the Nation of Islam, and I used to look at the Muhammad Speaks newspapers, and the police were pigs, and the white man's a devil, and the black man is a god. And I thought that was a different twist, because when I'm in Catholic school, I seen a white Jesus, I seen a white God the Father, and I seen white devil, and everything was, all the statues was white. So I seen different concepts. And then going to church with my grandparents, I would see the depictions of Jesus, of course, and that was white. And so it was a thing of religion. It had me thinking about what is it and why. And so my transformation to becoming a Muslim, one day, I met this brother named Muhammad Najm. And we were talking everything else, and he's saying, "Hey, why don't you come to Islamic studies with me?" I'm like, "What's that?" He says, "Like Bible class, go to Islamic studies. He call it Talim." And I said, "Okay." I said, "What is that?" He says, "Like Bible study, but only for Muslims." So I go to it the one day, and this brother that was talking and giving the talk,
Yes.
he was so smart.
Yes.
And I'm like, man. And I was asking questions, and he would answer them,
Yes.
and it made sense.
Yes.
And I said, I was happy that I went, and then I left and came home, and Brother Muhammad Najm asked me, said, "How'd you like it?" I said, "That was pretty cool. I understand. I like it." So the following week, he said, "You want to go?" And the following week, I said, "Yeah." And I went. And then I said, "You know what? I think this works for me."
Yes.
And I said, "Well, I think I'm gonna become a Muslim."
Alhamdulillah.
And I took my declaration, which means, my shahada, and that's like being baptized and converting to the religion. And so I became Muslim. The brother who was the instructor name was Mark Shearer. Mark Shearer is the brother who he brought me in.
He's editor of the Muslim Journal in Chicago.
I know.
Okay, but
I
go
know.
ahead.
I know. And so, I did that. Now, let me tell you this. Since that happened, once I became Muslim,
Yes.
then my journey began. And I'm fast forwarding.
Yes.
I wound up becoming what's called the imam, which is a pastor, preacher, minister,
Yes.
in Christianity.
Yes.
So I became it, and it was up in Minnesota,
Yes.
and I had a community that I ran, and so after that, I come back to Chicago, and I'm with this organization called the Flaming Crescent Society.
Yes.
And we were doing lectures, monthly lectures.
Yes.
And so I happened to see the brother. I haven't seen the brother Mark Shearer, who I took my declaration with, for maybe 10, 11 years. And I looked and I'm thinking, that guy looks familiar to me. So I asked one of the brothers in the Flaming Crest, I said, "What is that brother's name there?" They said his name is Mark. And I said, it might be that brother.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we're doing a lecture with the Flaming. We're doing a lecture with the Flaming Crescent,
Yes.
and it's my day. I got to do a full lecture for the full hour.
Yes.
And I asked the brother who runs the Flaming Crescent. I asked him. I say, "Would that brother Mark be there at the lecture?" He said, "I asked him to be there because I said this is the brother that brought me into Islam, and I wanted to reacquaint myself with him." And so, yeah, the brother came to the lecture,
Yes.
and so I told him the story and the journey of the journey of what happened,
Yes.
and me and him connected. Me and him connected like that, and I said that he doesn't know how important it was and impact he had on my life in doing that. And then what I became the imam, and I had a community, I had a ummah
Yes.
that I had in Minnesota,
Yes.
and just that point, and me and him embraced and have always been, always been indebted to him.
It's good, brother.
Brother Mark Shearer plays an integral part in me being who I am as far as Islam is concerned. But now let me say this for my Christian brothers and sisters and brothers and sisters under Judaism. I love Jesus. I love Jesus.
Yes.
I love Abraham. I love Moses. I can't be a Muslim without following them and loving who they are.
Yes.
Okay, I don't mean because I have part of Christianity in my heart. I have Judaism in my heart because of those noble prophets that I just spoke about.
Hear that, Ed?
So
I'm just got a friend named Ed. Hear that, Ed, out there? Okay.
So I'm not against any of that.
Yes.
And the biggest hypocrisy about religion is that they hate each other. They fight against each other. You know, Christians, I don't like apostolic. I don't like Pentecostal. You know, I don't like Jehovah's Witness. I don't like, and they're going back and forth each other, but they're still supposed to be following Jesus. You got the Zionists, the against you got the Hasidic Jews. You got all that. They're fighting against each other. You got the Muslims, the Shiite, and the Sunni. They don't like each other. They're battling against each other. So that's the major hypocrisy, that they not only do they don't like the other religions, but they don't like each other in their own religion.
Yes. You know, when we talk about the plight and the disconnect and the Islamophobia, when we look at our brothers in Palestine right now, and it has been bombed out, and Netanyahu is wanted on war crimes.
Yes.
He's the prime minister of Israel. What is your genuine feeling about the brothers in Palestine and them being bombed out? In the United States, Israel said they wouldn't recognize any government that was duly elected by the people, and I think Hamas was elected by the people. I mean, what are your views about what's going on in Palestine?
It's a shame, really, and we don't have no Islamic. In fact, the Muslim world is very weak. It's extremely weak. You know, you have Saudi Arabia, who the United States Embassy has set up shop there. They're in the bed with the United States, and they call the United States the house of Satan because everything goes. That's what they're called from the Muslim country and the Muslim world. And so, how can you have a strong Islamic base when you got the Muslims within itself on the other side of the fence with other people, just like in Iran, just like Iran. You know, you got Saudi Arabia against Iran.
I mean, don't you feel it's a tragedy what's going on with the Palestinians?
Well, it says in the Quran, I paraphrase it, that if you fight one Muslim, you fight all.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
If you get into one Muslim, you get into it all of them.
Now the Quran says this.
And so when we do something else, when you see the brothers hurt, the brothers and sisters hurt and getting beat up, and in fact, you on the side of the opposition, how in the world could you talk about being a Muslim if they're not together?
Yeah.
And they're not the same book that everybody's supposed to read and follow, they don't.
Yeah, to bring about a peaceful resolution. But I'm saying it like that for a reason.
You know, but Allah says, fight with those that fight with you.
Yes.
You know, that's what God says in the Quran.
And once they retreat, leave them alone.
But the thing is, they're folding.
Yeah.
They're folding. They're not standing. They're not standing with the rest of the ummah.
When you say this is a strong statement and it's the truth, would you say that Saudi Arabia having American troops on the ground in Saudi Arabia, this is
a silhouette of the enemy that ignored the humanity of Muhammad, the shared roots with Jesus, and the vibrant reality of millions? Whether it's the treatment of Muslims in China, the tensions in France, or the far-right rallies in the UK, the question remains, is the world reacting to the people or to the caricature we've been sold? Today, we strip away the headlines and the Hollywood tropes. We look at the context behind the shithole remarks, the reality of the protests, and the political history of a misrepresentation that continues to shape our borders and our hearts. This is the truth behind the image. A silhouette of the enemy that ignored the humanity of Muhammad, the shared roots with Jesus, and the vibrant reality of millions. Whether it's the treatment of Muslims in China, the tensions in France, or the far-right rallies in the UK, the question remains, is the world reacting to the people or to the caricature we've been sold? Today, we strip away the headlines and the Hollywood tropes. We look at the context behind the
what your grandfather was doing. Any message for your grandchildren? Great.
Because I happen to have known someone who was in the NSA.
Okay.
All right? And they don't know what they'll know now. I've been in their building with him. Did you see it?
Yes, sir.
And they...
Some people don't know what NSA
The National Security Administration. And when I walked in there, they got video screens. I mean, from here to 35th Street.
Those street cameras, right?
Those are the screens like you watch on a computer.
Right.
All right? They got a room where they listen to conversations all around the country. All right? That's why I can say what I said. But they let me go because he was an important person. And they figured if he was pregnant, it was all right. All right? They made a mistake, but I never forgot that.
Well, wait a minute. Wow.